You are on your knees in burning sand, an iron collar choking your neck, chained to 11 other women whose prayers you cannot understand but whose desperation you recognize completely. A shadow falls across your face, brief, cruel relief, before rough hands seize your jaw, forcing your mouth open. Fingers probe your teeth, your gums, the back of your throat until you gag. Your eyelids are pulled wide. A finger hooks inside your lip, dragging it down like your livestock at market. Because that's exactly what you've become. This inspection will decide the rest of your life, yet the man conducting it will forget your face before sunset. 12 days ago, you were the daughter of a village leader in the Sahel, waking to your mother's voice each morning, knowing every path between the huts, bearing a name that meant something. She's dead now. You watched her fall and kept walking because the men with swords made one rule clear without speaking: stop moving and join her. In Arabic, there is a word for what you've become: Jariya, slave girl. But that translation is too clean, too gentle. It hides the truth. Your body is inventory. Your future belongs to whoever pays for it. Your past no longer exists. The man examining you steps back and gives a small nod. Another approaches with a leather pouch. You hear coins shift inside. Metal changes hands. You've just been sold for the third time this month. Where they're taking you, historians will spend centuries pretending never existed. This is the Arab slave trade, 14 million Africans across more than 13 centuries. That length of time matters more than the number. Systems don't survive 1300 years unless they're carefully maintained, so efficient at erasing human beings that almost no descendants remain to tell the story. You already know about the Atlantic slave trade. Ships, chains, plantations in the Americas, 12 million Africans transported over roughly 400 years. That history has museums, memorials, films. Children learn it in classrooms. Politicians reference it in speeches. But there was another slave trade, older, longer, and by some measures even larger. The Arab slave trade began in the 7th century following the rise of Islam and the Arab conquest sweeping across North Africa. It didn't end until the 20th century. Saudi Arabia officially abolished slavery in 1962. Mauritania followed in 1981. These aren't ancient dates. Your grandparents remember these years. Between roughly 650 AD and 1900 AD, historians estimate that between 14 and 17 million Africans were torn from their homes and transported to North Africa, the Middle East, and the Arabian Peninsula. Some scholars believe the true number is higher. Records were inconsistent. Deaths went uncounted. Entire caravans vanished without documentation. Yet almost no one talks about it. Why? Because this trade was engineered to leave nothing behind. And it worked. In the United States today, there are around 45 million people of African descent. Their existence is evidence. Their communities keep memory alive. But in the Middle East, after 13 centuries of importing millions of Africans, there is almost nothing. Small communities in Yemen, scattered populations in southern Iraq, a few thousand Afro-Arabs in Morocco. Tiny remnants where there should be millions. So where did 14 million people go? The answer is the darkest part of this entire story. The men were systematically castrated at rates estimated between 80 and 90%. This is not speculation, it's documented across hundreds of primary sources spanning centuries. The procedure was carried out at specific points along trade routes. Egyptian monasteries became infamous for it. For every man who survived, 3 to 5 died from blood loss, infection, or shock. Castrated slaves could not reproduce, could not form families, could not build communities strong enough to resist. They could not leave descendants who might one day demand justice. They worked, they aged, they died, and they were replaced by the next raid. Generation after generation for over 1300 years. But the women served a different purpose entirely. They were kept intact, kept fertile, preserved specifically for what their bodies could produce. Arab merchants were rarely raiders themselves, they were businessmen operating vast commercial networks. They built economic systems encouraging Africans to capture and sell one another. Firearms flowed into the continent. European guns traded through Arab middlemen. Textiles, luxury goods, salt precious in sub-Saharan regions, and in return, human beings. Villages were attacked at dawn when resistance was weakest. Men who fought back were killed immediately. Those who surrendered were inspected on the spot. Young, strong men were separated for castration and sale. Older men with little market value were often killed where they stood. But the women faced different calculations. Traders examined them carefully. Age, appearance, health, all mattered. The most valuable age range fell between roughly 13 and 25 years old. Old enough to survive what lay ahead, young enough to be exploited for decades. Then came the Sahara. The trans-Saharan routes were not measured in distance but in depth. From collection points in sub-Saharan Africa to the great northern markets, Tripoli, Tunis, Cairo, Marrakesh, caravans traveled staggering distances, some exceeding 2,000 miles. The journey took 2 to 3 months under ideal conditions. Conditions were never ideal. Daytime temperatures routinely climbed past 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Sand became hot enough to blister skin. Then night arrived and temperatures plunged. Water was rationed with ruthless calculation. Camels needed water to survive. Camels were costly. Camels carried goods. Slaves were cheaper than animals and could be replaced. So water went to the camels first. Historians estimate that between 20 and 30% of captives died during Saharan crossings. Some caravans lost half their human cargo. Heinrich Barth, a German explorer who crossed the Sahara in the 1850s, described paths littered with human skeletons. In some valleys, the remains were so dense it was difficult not to step on them. Skulls bleached white by the sun. Rib cages half buried in drifting sand. These were not ancient bones, they were recent additions to trails that had been collecting bodies for over 1,000 years. For the women who survived, arrival at a North African port meant only that the immediate dying had stopped. Nothing more. The slave markets were ancient institutions refined over centuries into systems of terrifying efficiency. Teeth were examined first. Skin was inspected for disease, scars, flaws. Then everything else. The examinations were invasive, intimate, carried out with the same detachment a butcher shows when judging livestock. If this dark chapter of history shook you, subscribe to Deadly History for more hidden tragedies and untold betrayals from the past. Like this video, drop your thoughts in the comments, and share it with someone who loves deadly history stories.